Hello and welcome to American Heron Wargaming. This is a crafting report about a tricky situation I found myself in and how I'm solving it. Over the summer, I was away from home on holiday, and during that time, I was idly searching through the listings on my local eBay equivalent. I've been hearing some interesting things about Warhammer the Old World, and as I really vibe with the dwarves, I started picking up some old lots at a discount. And I may have accidentally acquired a full 2,000 point army's worth of models. However, one of the biggest headaches I'm facing, besides all this painting, is the fact that all these models are actually on 20mm bases, which were standard before this current edition. I know that there are some adapter trays that I could use, but some of these are even on round bases. Plus, if I'm going to need to paint them anyways, I might as well get the bases done too. So I need to get myself sorted with 25mm square bases, around 140 of them. I wanted something interesting, but it also needed to be scalable. The most common basing themes I've seen for dwarves are green grass and white snow, and I wanted to do something different. To represent the dwarves' mountain holds, I wanted to go for a stone tile look. Not the random composite you'd find in cobblestone or flagstone, but quality interlocking tiles that showcase the dwarves' master stone cutting. So I figured I could represent that by spray painting a dark gray on the bases first, making a stencil, and then spraying a slightly lighter gray with the stencil on top to get the tiling shapes. I had some troubles with that approach. I cut the stencil out of 1mm plastic card, which I was hoping would be sturdy enough to handle the thin lines between the tiles, and also withstand many uses. However, cutting intricate shapes out of that was difficult, and took quite a while. It also had several breakages, which I had to go back in and patch with scraps. The spraying was also difficult, as all the cuts seemed to have warped the plastic card which remained, meaning they didn't quite lay flat on the tiles. So, when I sprayed the lighter gray over it, there were notable areas of over and under coverage. After a few experiments, I had a method which seemed to work. I built a cardboard frame for the stencil which would keep it almost perfectly level with the primed bases. Then I'd spray a contact adhesive on the back of the stencil and press it down, letting it adhere tightly. Only then would I spray the lighter gray. It was more work than I'd wanted to do, but it did work. The only problem was that it still didn't look great. Even with getting the gaps as narrow as I could with hand tools, the tile illusion wasn't sold. The gaps were too large and there was no sense of depth. I could have maybe done something afterwards with a brush to make them pop more, but with 140 of these to do, individualized manual work seemed daunting, especially for a maybe. So I went back to the drawing board. I took the tile design that I was using and I brought that into a 3D modeling program. I then made a large array of those tiles, and then used a wrapper to curl them in on themselves. Then I took a cylinder and cut those wrap shapes out of that cylinder. The end result was a custom texture roller. So I took some milliput, mixed it together, and spread it over the bases. Then I pushed the roller over the bases, forcing the texture into it. It took a few passes to get the pressure and water levels just right so that the roller didn't get stuck, but I was able to get it done relatively quickly. After the milliput hardened, I trimmed the sides down and gave them a coat of primer. I then tried out a few different grays for the color of the stone tile, and decided on Games Workshop's Dawnstone as the lower right option. Celestra Gray was very bright, and the bases shouldn't be that much of a focal point. However, the standard Mechanicus Gray and Skaven White Dinge were actually a bit too dark. So I got one of my new models set up on these new bases, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. They're interesting without being distracting, and definitely provide that feeling of depth that I wanted. I think this is going to be a scalable enough pipeline, with more labor than just simply spraying two colors, but also not requiring custom work to be done on each tile, so it should be pretty batchable. We'll see. I'm not in any rush to get this army playable, and I have some other projects I'm working on as well, so don't expect to see much progress anytime soon. But my plan is to focus on getting enough units complete for a 500 point game of Old World to start, so that way I can get things on the table without having to be 100% complete. Then I can scale things up over the long dark winter. That should be a fun time. That's it for now. Hope you enjoy the journey.